Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 104 of the Strip Poker Night at the Inventory podcast, the second of the two episodes we're recording this November. Last time, we were a little bit stuck in the past. We were playing catch up with the Halloween event and the 6 alt costumes we got for that. And we're not quite and we were also looking towards the future with the sleepover event and some of the UI changes. But this time we are firmly in the present day. We will be covering an epilogue that was actually teased in a prior episode, associated with a main roster edition, which we already talked about. Another main roster edition, which Wibbly should know all about.
Oh yeah,
and a brand new testing roster character. In fact, a masquerade character. They're still coming in. I am your host, SPNanon, as always, and I'm here with my co-host, Nord. Say hi.
Hello, everyone. I've gathered 6 of the 7 Chaos Emeralds. The world will soon be mine. How are you doing?
And returning with us, as I mentioned, is our guest, WibblyWarble.
hello. I stole 2 of the 6 of Nord's Chaos Emeralds.
You cheeky bitch.
Just now?
Yeah.
Just now you burst under the ground and you deactivated his super form?
Yeah. No Super Nord for you.
I knew I shouldn't have stored them in the special zones.
So let's not beat around the bush here. These main roster characters or additions that we're talking about, as you might expect, Nord is responsible for one of them and Wibbly for the other. And we're going to start off with something that we deliberated on talking about when Rose from Plus Anima hit the main game. I believe it was episode 102. We talked about that, but we decided that this epilogue that she got, Nord has made the vast majority of epilogues in the game recently. It deserved its own special section in a future episode. So this is Rose's Heart, and I believe there's a male and female version of this. I only saw the male one. I don't expect the female one to be all that different. I mean, you do fuck her right in the pussy. I'm not sure exactly how that's handled.
The same is true in both epilogues, but not in the manner that most of the classic epilogues would, which just swapping a penis out for a dildo. It's each scene is built differently between the epilogues.
Kind of taking the Mega Man approach.
I might as well let you just get right into it. So, what was the inspiration for this plot line? Because I know it features. I mean, I know you kind of want to introduce Rose a little bit more. You get to see her actual brother, which she talks about all the time. I can understand not bringing him to the game. I know I say visually communicate stuff, but yeah, maybe don't have him there for the actual game. Unlike some other companion characters, but there's that. There's what was it, Margot that she was with, the old woman?
Yeah.
Is she a character in the series?
She is, in fact, another canon character.
Add her to the game.
And then you have your own Plus Anima OC villain, possibly the first Plus Anima OC in 20 years. Yeah. It's a typical plot line, and high player, and then there's it's a villain of the week, and she mostly does the fighting, and then you do some kind of token effort to help her out, kind of like what happens with Nami, and then you fuck. So, please explain the process here, Nord.
So, Rose is one of those characters where I've fully finished her. I've gotten her to main. She already has collectibles. She already has plenty of banter. The only thing really left to check off is an epilogue, and I feel like she deserves one, because this epilogue in general is just a love letter to Plus Anima as a whole. It was fun coming up with just a short little, bare bones, but easy to follow story of there's a Plus Anima criminal about. So, of course, naturally, Plus Anima are drawn towards other Plus Anima or something like that. That's how it goes, right? Rose gets in a fight with him.
Oh, is it like Stans?
Rose gets into a fight with him to rescue her brother, which is another reference to the source material, where her brother is like kidnapped for a bit and she rescues him. And then they both leave the plot forever. But Pinion is like 14 years old here, mainly because Rose herself was aged up like 4 years to make her 20, and so him being 10 years old in the story, I think he was 10 in Plus Anima. Maybe he was even younger. He might have been 8, and so he's probably 12 here. I did make him a little bit taller to signify that he is a bit older, but I doubt anyone would have noticed or really cared but me. But it was important to me to do that. Margot looks...
He just looks like a little kid.
Yeah, he is just a little kid, essentially. Margot didn't really change from how she is in Source. The trick with all these characters is that none of them actually have any canon colorization, from what I can tell. The one I used for Rose, I went back and looked at, and I think it's fan art. But it's really hard to tell because the original source is from like a Facebook post from 15 years ago reposting it. So, it's hard to tell where exactly it came from. But,
the early internet.
Yeah. Margot and Pinion, it was fun introducing them and having them, like, greet the player very briefly. For the actual fight scene, it is basically like just mashing action figures together, but I wanted the player to be involved in it and show that, like, you can help her out. And so, the directive for this, as in like the stage direction for this that I put into the epilogue editor, is Dead by Daylight flashlight save. Because in that game, you can shine a torch in the killer's eyes to temporarily blind them, and so that's what the player does here to incapacitate the villain long enough for Rose to knock him out. Not kill him, just knock him out. And then obviously that's all just a fun, adventure of sorts for the first half that sets up the second half of the epilogue, which is Rose and the player getting very intimate together and having a very passionate night. So you could probably tell I feel like I've put a lot more thought into how to explain how I did the first half. I feel like the second half is pretty self-explanatory. It's what people are probably actually there for, but making what is essentially Plus Anima fan fiction here, it was a lot of fun to do. So I'm very interested to hear what your thoughts are.
Go ahead, Wibbly.
All right. Yeah, no, I thought it was really cute. I mean, I love Rose as a character. I definitely don't know a lot about the source material. I only know the character through what I've come in contact with in SPNatI, but I think it's fun. I mentioned before off of the podcast, but I like that you took the time to like model other characters and whatnot. And so that like it wasn't just kind of silhouettes or something like that, but that little bit of extra effort goes a long way. And it's the intimacy scenes are well done, and Rose is just adorable as ever.
There's a like crowd scene that has just generic silhouettes. But
you're always going to have that to some degree.
The 4 specially colored ones were some cleverly reused character models.
Yeah.
Yes, I noticed. But that just seemed like cute cameos.
Yeah.
Pretty much, yeah.
So as usual, I tend to, make my notes as I go through it. So the first thing I thought is like I have this this medieval pastoral shire looking background. Is this like AI generated?
It is, in fact, AI generated because
yeah, you kind of got the vibe.
Yeah, I tried my best to pick results that were refined and don't immediately look off, but I will.
Tainted. Nord's tainted now.
I
Part of the problem. Didn't you rail against AI stuff in the AMA?
I have a complicated relationship with generative AI. In my case, I'm using it for a non-profit work where, nobody's paying me to make me these. I have. I could go on a tangent about this if we really want to, but to put it simply, I have commissioned a friend to do a lot of backgrounds for a different epilogue that my man's is working on. That's taking a while. For my own personal use of getting this epilogue done, I made use of generative AI to really sell the scenes and vibe I was going for. I don't I understand if people dislike that just in principle, and I apologize to people that don't like that, but at the same time, in my mind, it's like I'm literally not earning any money off of this. So it's like, if you wanted to donate to help get backgrounds drawn for me, feel free.
Yeah, small personal projects like this, I think, are the best uses too.
Are they all AI? Because the Shire looking one, that was the only one that really made me go like, I don't know.
They all are, yes.
Okay.
Oh, well, aside from one that's like a default piece of cake background and it's just pink with hearts in it.
Because a couple of these, like, they were kind of on style and they almost look like they look like too detailed. It's like, how did you get these? I mean, they don't look like bad, but yeah. It's a little uncanny. For a lot of, I mean, SPNatI does have enough backgrounds at this point that you could probably reuse a lot of them for various reasons.
I tried, and the honest answer is no. None of them really fit what I was going for.
Yeah. Especially, it's easier for me with Konosuba with being able to take stills from like the show itself to fit the background, but with a really old series that's black and white, that makes it challenging.
And that never got an anime adaptation.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, now that I've publicly shamed you, we can get into the actual epilogue proper. You know, the silhouette cameos were neat. I mean, the Viper, the OC. I mean, it was a pretty fun design. It's definitely all the story you need. It is kind of funny how you just have to always have to insert the player somehow. You have to give them something to do. It's like you can't just have her beat up the villain or whatever. I did think I was wondering how am I actually going to contribute to this situation with her her fighting the Viper. I think with Nami when she's fighting what's her face Sinclair, you just throw a rock at her. just yeah, that's all you can do.
Wait, I have a great idea. So you should make an alternative. You should have Jura and Barnett get into a fight scene in their epilogue, and then if you happen to have equipped the CZ-75, the MAC-10, or the Smith & Wesson, the player just pulls out a gun.
I have my own plans. So I did not expect the solution you did come up with, which is in another world with my smartphone. It's a little weird. It's I guess I just have a smartphone in this pastoral wonderland.
I had this weird realization that there's going to be a point in time where kids don't remember flashlights or haven't ever seen them.
Oh god.
Yeah, it just blinds them with turn the flash on. It also didn't make a whole lot of sense to me because it didn't seem that dark. So why would the flash really stand out? If it was nighttime, that would make a little more sense.
Well, I didn't convey it very well, but you're in a clearing under the shade of some trees, and he is looking right at you. So his eyes would be drawn towards the flash of the camera or the phone camera, and then blam, blinded.
I feel like your phone, you know how your phone tries to adjust for the lighting conditions? I feel like it just screw you over. It's you don't need the flash. Fucking goddamn.
Just take out a laser pointer and shine it right in his eye.
Yeah, are snakes susceptible to flashes of light? Is that a thing?
Probably not. If anything, his eyesight would probably be
Worse.
worse.
Anyway,
You know what?
Let's not think on it too hard.
all I otherwise noticed with that is like, why do I have tiny hands? I made this complaint with Rin as well, with her stripping poses. Why do I have tiny hands? I have strong, masculine hands. That should be reflected in SPNatI.
I also feel like the elbow is a bit too high up. That would be the only other suggestion, but...
Do you see the elbow? I suppose you do once the black bars at the top and bottom go away after you take the picture. Yeah. I suppose
Anyway, all these
right.
nitpicks must be absolutely riveting to the viewers. So let me comment on the actual fucking part. And this is related to like the story part as well, but I do think it's a bit unfortunate. It's a problem I'm still wondering how to navigate, which is the zoom in aliasing, because you just like use regular game zoom poses. When it zooms in like on her face, it's kind of aliased because it's not rendered at that normally. It's a bit unfortunate that it's like you have to export poses specifically like close up so it doesn't look blurry when you get that close to her. That's a bit of a shame. I'm not sure what to do about that because you can't really manipulate vectors in the character editor, or at least you can't see a preview of them, so you can't do anything complicated. As far as the sex scene goes, I did think this was a bit undercooked, unfortunately. It seems like you spent most of your time and effort on the story bit, which was good. I especially liked you had like some budget animation going on with the action and the story. You know, there's a lot of like good angles, good like use of cropping to like kind of like use of the camera. Like you don't really want to animate the characters, but like you made it feel dynamic and kind of like a comic, where it kind of like zooms in on her eyes and like crops out everything else, you know, stuff like that. Or it's like a Dutch angle and like they're bashing into each other. That looked pretty good. But for the actual sex scenes, it was much less effective. Like I noticed there weren't really any animated parts. It was just like the camera zooming in and out of your embrace, and that didn't work quite as well. So I understand, you know, you want to make these quick and dirty, and some content is definitely better than no content. And it wasn't like horrible, but it did stand out as being like not as effective, not as good.
Yeah, I'm not going to deny anything you've said because if I'm critical of my own work, I agree completely. Just the camera bobbing up and down to give a vague illusion of motion is all I really did. So yeah, I agree.
I will also make my usual complaint about the size difference and the perspective when she's on top of you being a little bit off. Why do I have such a small body? I have a strong masculine body. I believe that should be reflected in SPNatI. It was a nice little pan up halfway through where she suddenly got her claws out while she's on top of you. It's like, ooh, all right, this is getting saucy. Unfortunately, though, like the cat thing, I think could have been played up a little bit more. I got that was hinted at when we were talking about our main roster release, but it was more like in the actual epilogue, it was more like a tell, don't show kind of thing. It was like, oh my god, I got scratches all over you. It's like, oh, it would have been neat if you actually saw her scratching you. You know, you could have a little insert shot of like her hands around your back and her really digging in with the claws. Something like that. Also,
that's a good idea.
You should rub her pussy at some point, or even her neck or her cheek, or whatever, and she should start purring.
Ooh, that would be good.
And rubbing her cheeks up against your chest.
Damn, why didn't I think of that?
She should be like crawling on all fours around your legs and rubbing up against.
Running around in circles at 1 a.m.
Why am I doing all the work for you? Any final thoughts, or I imagine this is pretty much the capstone for Rose as a project, unless there's anything else you want to do with her.
Pretty much, unless I give her more costumes. She's one of those characters where I didn't plan to stick with her for like updating her indefinitely. In general, with SPNatI, I've sort of just gravitated to working on. Well, I can pick and choose who I want to work on because I've got so many fucking characters. I'm sort of sticking with the same 4 or 5 characters right now, and I'm sort of finished with Rose, I would say. People want more content from her, and I get specific ideas, I'll definitely explore those in future. But yeah, this epilogue definitely, I think, with the farewell scene at the end, also definitely feels like a very, finishing touch for her as a SPNatI project. Any final thoughts, Wibbly?
I think, as I said, I'm very easy to please, but as SPNanon mentioned those things, I'm like, oh yeah, that's a good idea. So I think SPNanon's the best one with the constructive criticism, because I like it. It's cute.
Well, I could have told you that.
Yeah.
Don't touch that dial, Wibbly. You're not off the hot seat.
I know.
You move from from Nord's work to yours after a long journey. There's been a lot of long journeys lately. Darkness from Konosuba has at last made her way to the main roster. Finally, on the main roster in SPNatI, we have a full Konosuba table. You got the whole gang. Cosma, Megumin. I think Megumin was first, right?
Yeah.
Then Cosma, and then Darkness came on the scene but fell off the testing. And then Aqua from Konosuba lapped her after Aqua from Kingdom Hearts. And then finally Darkness returned.
Just kind of probably how she would have liked it anyway.
There's also Union in there somewhere. And eventually a Wiz. For the people who don't like guys, that's Union's last bit of relevance she's clinging to now. Which may be supplanted when Wiz makes main roster. So she's hanging by a thread, but let's not worry about her. Let's worry about Darkness. So what are the steps that you took to finally get her across the finish line? What are the sponsorships that you filled out, and what was the experience like coming back and getting around to testing and on to main, and like where do you want to take her from here? Like what do you want to work on next?
With the sponsorships, some of the big things were hand lines and whatnot, but the hardest, more lines in general, fleshing that out. But the hardest one was interactions with other characters, other Konosuba characters. Since I only wrote Megumin, and relied on another person who was busy at the time, so that slowed it down a lot. But other than that, it was a lot of just finding. When I got back from the break and looked back at the dialogue, I internally cringed a lot, and then went back and started changing some of the stuff, because I felt like I leaned too heavy into the off the rails dialogue at the beginning, and so I've kind of gotten in a better pace with her in general, I feel like. But I think one of the things I discovered while writing and working on her is just that not only does she bring a good chaotic very off-putting energy, because of her openness, is very good at getting characters to talk more about subject matter that they generally might not be as quick to talk about. So that can be fun. Really, any way you approach it, whether you're like, oh man, she's kind of weird, or actually showing interest in talking with or bantering with her, can be fun. The only hang up I found with working on her, and I encourage people to try not to go too hard into sometimes, is that when someone starts playing into it a little too much, playing into what she's after a little too much, she kind of gets off the rails pretty quick. So
where do you want to take her from here?
Keep working on building out targets. I love writing targets. I want to start doing targets again with Megumin as well. I definitely want to get an epilogue out there. Just kind of continue refining her in that way. I would love to see, there's some slight adjustments to the model I'd like to see at some point, more defined abs was a big thing I wanted to see. And I want to change one of the poses, but other than that, it's mostly continuing to work on targets and maybe generics, and maybe someday getting a costume. I need to learn how the new epilogue editor works so I can make not only a epilogue for Darkness, but finally make the missing epilogue for Megumin. But I definitely, one of the things, because I feel like I got her out during more of a slow period in general, or when there was a lot of distractions and stuff, I definitely would love get a little more general like feedback from more people on like where she's at right now. But I don't know. In general, I'm having fun with her. She's fun.
I had a lot of fun doing my test game with her. I can't remember if this is true or not, but I remember people saying that even the author of Konosuba had trouble writing Darkness because she is a bit of a one-note character if you really boil her down to her essentials.
Yeah, it's that combined with also the fact of finding a way to like play into that without going too hard one way or the other, you know?
And it's a compliment.
Act.
Yeah, it's a compliment to your writing skills that, at least in the course of a single SPNatI game, you manage to make it not go too far or not really get old. It's also that sort of paradox of like, this is the last place that Darkness should end up in this sort of game, because this is like exactly what she wants. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
It's exactly the same with Kazuma as well, where it's like, this is everything they've ever wanted. Like people, you know, seeing and being seen in this sort of context.
Yeah, for people who haven't played with her yet, the what I did is I had it like stages. I think it was like 0 through 4 or something like that. She progressively kind of gets a little more flustered, but is like trying to keep up and act, and then after that she just completely lets go. And one of the big things for that is because I wanted to, first off, it's important to have like some level of consistency, because if I'm going all over the place, like in some responses having her unhinged and some not, then like at different stages, then it'll be kind of like too chaotic. So setting, okay, this is where she starts acting like this, and the stages makes that a lot easier to not be so sporadic. Occasionally something might slip through, but it helps keep things organized a lot better. But also because like she is comedy wise, she's very much a one-note character, but she does have a fair amount about her character that is interesting that kind of gets glossed over sometimes because Konosuba is more of a comedy. So it kind of gives me more time to play into that stuff a bit.
Yeah, definitely.
I have enjoyed writing targets with her. It has been a bit of a task because I've kind of witnessed in real time you cringing at the old dialogue and wanting to revise it and change it and delete it. And
I appreciate your patience.
And implementing the progression through her stages where she brings up different steadily looter topics. It was just a lot to keep track of, but I mean, I do think it produced some pretty strong interactions in the end. So now that she's a bit more stabilized, it's nice to see her on main. I mean, that is kind of the point of testing, to hammer all that out. So don't feel guilty about it. It's something you should expect if you're going to target a testing character. There's going to be some growing pains.
Oh yeah, and for anyone who hasn't yet, I do recommend giving Darkness a shot with Jura or Maya or both, because spin on wrote a lot of targets and they have some fun interactions. It's okay. I tell them to play Maya and Jura every episode. Yeah, pretty much. But as far as growing pains go, Darkness enjoys pain. Yeah, pretty much. So yeah, she's pretty solid overall in my game with her maiden voyage on the main roster. I didn't notice. I mean, she's pretty like well defined at this point. I didn't notice any big issues, and you shouldn't. But I did notice some minor things, like when she was taking off her cloak / skirt. There was some pretty rough line work. I actually drew that myself a long way back at Yeah, you could probably touch that up. Yeah, this clothing isn't my specialty, and we needed something, and I just offered. I was like, okay, I'll draw something real quick if it'll help, and they were like, yeah, sure. So. Yeah, my clothes drawing has not been perfect either. There are some scattered typos as well. You could bring up my sponsorship. I sponsored her. I don't think you used it yet. It'd be nice if you changed some of her. Oh yeah, I've been keeping in consideration. Heavy poses sitting. I know you need to figure out Kisekai, but
yeah, this is the part where I reveal that after underscore, Hologic, Corky the Cactus, Jetstream Zero, and Purple Kuroi. I'm sort of the last person left who worked on her art, and so
Yes, I was going to mention. Yeah, you did pitch in, but a lot of people have.
I did about half of her poses. Going forward, there are a couple of model and pose tweaks we can definitely do. I think her art looks good as is, but I do like over time. I've agreed with you that Wibbly that there's places where the art can be improved. I'm personally just a bit busy with other stuff right now. We are getting outside help to try and fix up her codes in general a bit to make them easier to manipulate.
Yeah.
So hopefully going forward she'll be easier to fix up.
That's kind of the curse I've had with both my characters, because with Mega Man the big issue was so much was like imported or something in the original model, like stuff, the original imports were lost, and so had to try to refine them or remake them or recrop them out or something. It was a mess.
Were you able to find that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if we found every single thing, but we made it work. I think I had to like crop out the staff and stuff.
Darkness's art definitely isn't like bad. It's definitely good enough. Yeah, it's just some polish to consider. Also, going through my sponsorship, I did like how you replaced all the panting with onomatopoeia. I think that reads a lot more natural now.
Yeah, it was hard to figure out because she does do that a lot, and so trying to figure out how to verbalize that without audio.
Damn, why does she keep talking about pants?
Why does she keep laughing?
Yeah, and I think I mentioned already there are some typos here and there, but it's not a big deal. Let's see. Last thing, I do think, I mean, if you wanted like just sort of a general writing point going forward, I do think sometimes she kind of focused on herself a little bit too much during others' turns. I get part of that as her getting like, kind of whipped up into a frenzy and fantasizing. But it is nice to just occasionally strike up some like generic conversation, even if she does have an ulterior motive.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just so she's not always talking about herself.
Yeah, no, it's one of the things I quickly kind of stumbled into and realizing when it came to writing dialogue with between two of my own characters is that they all know each other really, really well, so they don't really have questions or things to ask each other, so it's more of trying to think of situational comedy, and that can be a little challenging sometimes, or situational comments that can be challenging sometimes after you go through after you like scrape the barrel clean with that. So it's definitely made that part a little challenging. So I really do enjoy doing targets with other franchise mates a lot too, but I'm working on fleshing out what I can in that regards.
Yeah, I don't envy your situation with 6 Konosuba characters, and they're all written by different people and in various stages of adoption and ownership. So yeah, I mean, I have seen a downtrend in a downward trend in bug reports. Be like, you remind saying Darkness. Hey, you really remind us of our Paladin Darkness.
Yeah.
That seems to be ironed out mostly.
Oh, yeah.
Which is good if she's going to be on main. Anything else to say about her?
If you play her, feel free to shoot a feedback report on anything you think of, because I always enjoy reading those, even the silly ones. And hit me up if you want to write targets.
Nord, anything else you want to say about her?
I'm really impressed with how you've turned out with her writing. Seeing her with nearly like 3,000 unique lines already is really impressive.
Yeah, I just got into the zone with it.
Oh, I just noticed something as well. She actually has very big boobs. Did either of you notice this?
Oh yeah.
Oh my goodness gracious.
Who would have thought? The armor is very compressive.
Speaking of big boobs, we're moving on to an actual brand new testing roster character to end things off. It's been a little slow this past month or two since the feedback poll, but we actually have a brand new one here. It's and she has big boobs herself. That is a gif of darkness. I thought you posted her. This is it's a gif of Karin Algernon Sauer, I believe, from Fear and Hunger 2, Termina, I think is the subtitle.
Electric Boogaloo.
Also known as Funger. Also known as a masquerade character by Insidiouani, who was on a couple episodes ago. He's the creator of a Queenie. And he actually organized a lot of the masquerade, and this was his masquerade character. And writing also by Death Respects, and then model by Blue Jay, who's done a lot of work. She actually did the model for Leon, and one of the vibes I got actually is like, oh my god, Femme Leon. It's kind of got the same fashion sense, color scheme. She has a gun as well, and she's sort of navigating this like zombie infested horror situations in Central Europe with kind of a dry wit. So there's definitely shades of Leon in there. A very funny way I heard her described is sort of a Reddit atheist. That's basically what she is. Or apparently she's also what TV Tropes calls a flat Earth atheist, because she's the kind of she's a very classic skeptical, like everything has a logical explanation, but she's in a universe where there's like literally magic and ghosts and demons and shit around every corner, and it's very hard to deny the reality. So like she's not supposed to be a particularly pleasant, or I don't want to say engaging, but like friendly character.
That's kind of par for the game itself, though.
Yeah, so I actually thought, like, just based on the kind of character she is in the description, I thought this would have been like a Danganronpa or like a Zero Escape kind of game, but apparently no, it's like a dungeon crawler.
Oh yeah.
She walks around, I guess, shooting demons with her Luger or something.
Yeah, it very much seems to be like a RPG Maker dungeon crawler. I found a screenshot of this earlier. Here we go.
Yeah, that's pretty much the vibe of the game. And yes, that is an ARM reminiscent of what you think, probably.
Yeah, but she's like an investigative reporter in a not Poland, basically a fantasy like World War II era-esque like Poland, or like a Soviet kind of country where the government is highly oppressive and killing people and suppressing the truth. And if that wasn't bad enough, there's also like mutants and zombies and shit.
And a lot of genitalia.
You can understand why she doesn't have like the best people skills. Yeah, she's pretty smug and unpleasant, and dare I say it, euphoric. But I'll let you get into it. Wibbly, what did you think of Karin Sauer? And she is sour, all right.
Yeah, for real. I was impressed by the aesthetic of the art for like the character model, because it very much feels like an escape from the traditional, anime kind of art style. A bit, it's kind of a lot, but it's also very. It can be challenging to do that with something like Isekai and make it look kind of like really appealing, but I think they did a really good job. And it's just kind of got a lot of that slightly more realistic face proportions and everything. So I liked that. I thought that was how they did that was well done. The one thing it didn't happen often, so it's not like a big complaint or whatnot. I know there were a couple moments where she kind of starts talking about something that's an in-universe thing, but without really explaining necessarily what she's talking about. And then if you haven't played the game, you're just kind of like, what? Outside of that, she's definitely a confrontational character, and I could see that leading to some interesting moments with interactions. The one thing is figuring out how to balance that where she doesn't like completely piss someone off so much that they're like, I'm done with you, It's
a lot of like she's just kind of snide. It's like there's no such thing as luck. It's just a skill issue. It's like you're pretty small minded to think that way, aren't you?
You can very much tell she doesn't have any skills at being, polite and friendly in conversation.
I don't need friends.
To be fair, she doesn't seem to live in a place where you can make a lot of friends.
Yeah. So I'd say I can imagine that being the biggest challenge going forward with her, is kind of finding that balance where you get fun interactions with it without just like outright pissing off every single character, per se. But
she seems like very fun to write targets to when a character actually like engages with her properly. But she can be like kind of a drag or a downer, I think, if no one's targeting her, because then she's just kind of being a bitch to everyone else who's mostly generally nice.
Yeah,
no reason to be that mean. But I'll let you keep going.
Yeah, no, it might be. I'm as I said, I'm not as familiar with the main source as much per se, so I don't know if this brings it too out of character. Maybe like toning down a tiny bit some of the generics with the friction, and then you can do some fun stuff with that with targets instead. But I don't know. I'm not 100% sure. But it is an interesting character. When I saw it was from Funger, or AKA The Game That Hates You, I looked at that and I was like, this is the last thing I expected on this game. So that was a really interesting choice. So
I know she has called out situations for when she gets really snide towards characters with the actual deity tag.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Oh god, I can only imagine.
Oh god, I can only imagine her and Aqua. That would just be an absolute B-fest.
Yeah.
I mean, I think they'd find common cause once Aqua discovers some zombies in her setting.
Oh yeah, she does hate them.
I think you've covered most of what I would have had to say about her dialogue. It's great that we have seen the results of Team He's Pulling His Cock Out in action. A lot of Masquerade teams made it to testing at least this year, which is great. The art is... I want to draw attention now to the art because you've covered a lot of the dialogue related stuff. The art, I want to say Blue Jay has knocked out of the park yet again. All of Karin's stages look really good. I want to say...
we should probably correct ourselves. I just check the editor. I think it's actually Karin. Karin. No, I think it's Karin.
Karin.
Yeah, I know. If this was a Japanese character, I'd say Karin. But no, I think it's Karin.
Karin. That's the rest of the episode. We're just going to work out the pronunciation. That's the rest of this episode.
Karin from Fear and Hunger.
Karin from Fear and Hunger. So Miss Sour, I want to say her art is really good in every stage, and I think Blue Jay did a great job with her body type. And what I mean by that is you can see it more in her undress stages, but she has a wide body, but not in a way that looks distracting. It looks, the way I'll phrase this, it looks pleasantly realistic. She's not a super skinny hourglass model. Like most characters are, as an unfortunate side effect of being made in Kiseki. So I think Blue Jay done a fantastic job with her just appearance in general, and I think a lot of people appreciate having a woman like her, even if she does not appreciate you and wants you to fuck off.
It does raise the question of what she's doing there and why she's here. Is she doing investigative journalism here at the inventory? It is a social situation.
One would have to imagine she's here for the chance to cross over and speak to characters that don't want to kill or injure or sexually abuse her or whatever the hell goes on in Fear and Hunger.
Probably all of the above and then some.
All of the above, yeah.
But she's still a bitch to all of them.
What I took away, I'll briefly touch on her. What I got is that she's very sentimental, but in a very defensive way, where it's clear she's on guard for most of the game, and you could maybe even read it as she's saying sentimental things to try and see how the other characters react. even if that's not how it works in practice. But like, I hope you get what I mean, where it's like it feels like she's testing the reactions of everyone at the table, and she's never actually off guard.
Kind of like a more aggressive Cheryl.
Yeah, I get what you mean. Yeah.
Again, you also called her Femme Leon. She kind of talks like she gets coy like Leon, except she's a little bit more like a Tips Fedora. Leon's more open-minded.
Yeah. But yeah, I think I'd be interested to see, with more work done on it, like continuing to see like the direction it go and the kind of interactions that would continue to develop with Karin. So, or was it Karin? Is that what you said?
Karin.
Karin. Okay.
As in park the car in the parking lot. I guess I'll get into my thoughts. I do have a lot of them. I did like her quite a bit, but I did have some pretty big issues as well. So let's start with the issues. Let's start with the writing. I think the biggest thing holding back my enjoyment of her was she had very, very long lines. Every line was like nearly going to her head, and she's pretty short. Let the dialogue breathe. I guess that's a stereotype of Reddit atheists, right? They post the big long call out posts about destroying you with facts and logic. But
yeah, glancing at her like hand equals okay dialogue in the editor, a lot of her dialogue like goes to the point where you can't even read it all in the preview. And I would definitely agree. Like having some shorter lines to balance that out would be good.
I've majorly advocated for short filler, even silent lines. But on top of that, so many of these, like, they're not bad lines. It's just they're too long. There's like 2 or sometimes even 3 totally different ideas or phrases in there that like kind of get the same thing across, and you could have made all of them 3 separate lines. And that would have been more fitting for the actual content of the line, which is like not a lot. And it would have, give her more variety and make it easier to parse. There's so many lines where it's like, I knew you'd do that. But then on the other hand, it's like you got this thing going on. But it's also, I can't expect anything from you. And it's like, those are 3 different sentences. Make those three different lines. And leave the detailed long ones for like targets or when she's explaining some kind of lore thing. So that was the big thing. Like if you just split all those up, she would be much more fun to read and to play with. And her wit would be more biting as well. When she gets a zinger in, it's not undercut by anything after it or before. I did have to question, is she ever not antagonistic? She feels very consistent in that way, but also kind of unfounded because no one's really being a bitch to her most of the time. Yeah, I get that she's supposed to be guarded, but it does also seem just like totally tone deaf with the environment most of the time, and she's one of those characters again that doesn't really crack until the very end. She never really changes her disposition until like a couple rounds before her orgasm, and just for those heavy stages, she cracks just a little bit, and then she goes right back to it. So not even during masturbation. Really, it's actually made me think that like early masturbating should be a default case. It's a little late now, but I do wish that was a thing where there was like more of a transition into that, where they kind of change their demeanor with masturbation. Because a lot of characters, I did this with Maya. I like forced it with targets where she kind of eases into it, but a lot of characters they just like launch straight into it.
I mean,
then others where they don't change at all.
You can make use of conditions, and there's even a like variable test you can do to check their own timer to see if it's like above or below or equal to a certain value.
Does the heavy case not? Because I thought in the past it was like at a certain point it would count as heavy, and that was kind of like the 2 stages.
Yeah, by default it's 3 to 5 ticks, as in like clicks of the game button, until the end where they go into the heavy state.
Oh, so it's close to the end.
Yeah, these days you can manually set the heavy state on or off if you want them to have a longer or shorter one, or skip it entirely.
Yeah.
And you can adjust their actual timer, mid-forfeit or before the forfeit even begins. What I've started doing with characters is I've started using a variable test that lets me as the writer check to see, okay, they've just started their forfeit. Here's some lines to reflect that, where they're like really just getting started.
Yeah, the Tixon stage especially, I've used that very extensively, especially to handle like dual forfeits.
Yeah.
The Maya Jura stuff, and even Jura and Barnett as well, because they kind of go through a shift when Barnett finishes. So keep track of all that is it's very useful. So other points about the dialogue. Yuzuki, a character we will talk about next time, by Nord, big surprise. She's like a demon lady, and Karin had some nice filters to her because she's like a monster, and she was kind of laying into her and talking about like, yo, what kind of horrific shit are you going to show us, huh, you piece of shit? You want to fucking go? I can just imagine Yuzuki becoming like a sobbing wreck.
Oh, God.
Just Karin be like, you should kill yourself now.
Damn.
Other dialogue stuff. I did see some pretty interesting hints of vulnerability or of sexuality. It was another thing. She didn't have too much sexuality because she was too busy being a bitch to everyone. But there was a little bit more on like she got cute. She was like pretty cute when she got embarrassed. The rare moments she did, mostly when she was like stripping, whatever. There was a couple points about like when you're a reporter, having big boobs really helps you, really get what you want, or get the story you need. And there's stuff about like soldiers hitting on her, and like that does a lot, and it's kind of like relevant to the game, but also kind of informs her world and her setting and her worldview. So it's very interesting stuff. And if you got into like the if you did a little bit more about like her sexuality and some stuff on body image, I think that would go a long way. And that kind of segues into what I talking about the art, because you did kind of mention she's not exactly an hourglass. I was actually pleasantly surprised. I've kind of railed against in the past, with stalking, so the woke, the weight gain fetishism or body positivity game. But like you look at her on the character select screen with that heavy winter jacket, and just like, ooh, she's pretty chunky, isn't she? When she takes it off, she's actually not that bad. I described the line of like, either being thick or too fat, and I think she's definitely like, yeah, I can roll with this. When she takes it off, she's actually her waist is tighter than you might think. So yeah, it does just seem like more of a natural body type for her. She's a little stockier, and it makes sense with where she lives and having to be warm for the winter, you could say. Luckily, she's finding enough food, but she doesn't look like bad or unattractive, or even by my standards. I'm a little bit less open-minded and progressive than some of the other devs, but even this, like, yeah, I can work with it. It's not bad. It's not unattractive. She's just a little on the stockier side. I think it works very well. It's not bad at all. And if you kind of get into how she, you do a little bit of body image stuff, how she maybe looks different from the typical SPNatI opponent, that does help. I think that would make her stand out. Oh, one more thing about the writing. I don't know if you want to get into like anachronism shenanigans, because she is from like the faux 40s kind of setting, I think. She has like a Luger and...
Yeah, I looked into Fear and...
I really think they are like a World War II situation.
I looked into Fear and Hunger, and it's like the first game is sort of like late medieval, early modern, bit ambiguous, but then the sequel is straight up in the 1940s equivalent of their world.
Yeah, so but like a fictional nation, I think, for like Eastern Europe kind of thing going on. So if you have a React and like filters and stuff to like some more like weird sci-fi stuff, that would be pretty neat. Or even just modern stuff. That would help flesh her out as well. Her boobs do look pretty big and full and nice, but sometimes they can also look a little flat. They could use a bit more shading on the underside to make them look more spherical, and the nipples look kind of flat as well. Also, I might as well post her butt pose. I did like that. She has a pretty big butt. I approved of this. Although it could use some more detailing on the top corners, I said. 7bootybutt.png, that's what it's called. Very nice around the cheeks, but in the outer corners, the top corners, you have a little more detail like shine or something. And I don't think they quite need to like extend all the way to the legs, the overhang of the cheeks. It's not really anatomically correct. Oh yeah, and she puts her jacket back on with the finished stage, which is always very nice. And you can see how it kind of makes her look a lot chunkier.
The pose with flipping you off.
The drawn stuff.
I like the way they made the jacket off center so you still see the goods.
Yeah. The drawn stuff, like her hair just looks like it's drawn. I think Blue Jay does that now. It does kind of clash a little bit with the general art style of the game for what that's worth. But like I'm someone who thinks that's okay. I like characters who look unique. Overall, though, just like lots of little things that I really like, and I think there's a lot of potential to really flesh her out. You know, she needs more targets, maybe ease up on the antagonism a little bit, or direct it towards filters a little bit more, and otherwise have her be a little more open to like other things going on in terms of like the anachronisms and trying to explain that or figure that out, or just I guess have her be more aware of like this is not her usual situation and she's going to see stuff that she can't immediately explain, even if she doesn't think it's magic. Yeah, but I really like what you've got going on here. The main thing was just the length of the lines. Please, just break them up. So many of her lines were like just 3 good lines mashed together.
And there were a couple of lines that kind of went behind her head a tiny bit too. So keep an eye out for that.
And she is on the shorter side, as you mentioned, so that's impressive. I don't think her hair is hand drawn though. I can see some Kisake hairpiece shapes in there. And I don't think you'd bother drawing those.
A lot of shading, a lot of gradients. If that is all an engine, I'd be impressed. But
I mean, Blue Jay is cracked. This is known. Like Blue Jay, Zeus, Omelette. A lot of people put a lot of effort into hair.
I really liked her, though. I think she's very interesting. I liked her a lot more than I thought I would. So, yeah, definitely looking forward to more, to interacting with her. She's got some spicy targets already. Anything else you want to say about Karin? Or Karin from... can't get the weeb out of me. Karin from Funger, or any of the characters we talked about today? Darkness, Rose's Epilogue, anything?
No, off the top of my head, I think we covered it pretty well.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how she develops from here, because I think she's mostly still in the just got onto testing state. I don't actually know if she has gotten a major update apart from like bug fixes.
She's only on an update or 2.
Yeah. I look forward to seeing where she goes from here. She has a lot of potential.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, well, that's going to do it. Thank you for coming on, Wibbly, these past 2 episodes, sharing your work and giving your feedback. We'd be happy to have you on in the future, provided, of course, that you show up at the scheduled time and play with the characters that are on the agenda.
Yeah, I apologize.
As you did this time, of course. I don't know why I felt the need to mention that. Yeah, I mean, I'm excited to see where Darkness goes and all these characters as well.
Me too.
And thanks, as always, Nord, for contributing half the agenda on each of these episodes. And giving your thoughts as well. Look forward to new events and new costumes and new characters.
Awesome.
Maybe even some more Masquerade characters in the far future. But speaking of which, we covered the past, we covered the present. Now we're mostly caught up, and we on the Strip Poker Night and the Inventory podcast look towards an uncertain future. So this is your regular host, SPNanon, signing off. Don't let the man get you down.